Hi, and thank you for joining us on Real Estate for Millennials. My name is Sara Shahmoradian, aka Millennial Realtor LA, and today we'll be talking about title. We have Mary here from Chicago Title. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to share with you guys some insight into title and getting to know what we do a little bit better.
Yeah, introduce yourself. Tell us how long you've been doing this and what you do kind of day to day.
So my day to day is it's different every day. Right. I don't really have a set schedule or a set job, but I've been doing this for 4.5 years now. I started pretty much right out of high school when I was 18 in the industry, and I learned in customer service first, like learning running the chains of title, who's on title and how to read that information, how to check any outstanding loans and any outstanding liens on a property, and things like that before I became a sales rep, which is what I do now. And now I help realtors grow their business and help them with the transactions, and which in turn helps you guys. So that's pretty much what
we love your help, by the way. We love having you around in the office. You're always so bright and bubbly, and we're happy to see you. So I'm really excited to have you here, not only because you're a millennial, but you're also a girl in the game, which I'm really excited about. So yeah, I'm happy to have you here.
Thank you.
So let's get started, because I think title is really important, and I think that not a lot of millennial new first-time home buyers know that much about title.
True.
And I get a lot of general questions about it, so let's just dive into it. Let's really explain what it is. Let's actually go very general and talk about the basics, right? So what is title? And let's break down what running title means. So an agent runs title all the time. They can run title themselves. But also, what is the difference between that and the prelim?
So running title is generally when you log on to our website and you type in a property address, it'll bring up what's called a property profile. And that's just general information that anybody has access to. It's a public record. So that will show like the bedroom and bathroom count, square footage, things like that. It'll also show when the person purchased it, when the seller purchased it, how much they paid for it, any title that they've done, how much they paid for it, their loan information will be concurrent with that. And any other deeds that they had, like if they put the property into their trust, if they took the property out of their trust, which is just different ways of holding title and protecting your assets. If they refinance the property, and that would be considered a deed of trust, that also gets recorded, so it would show how much they took a loan out for. If it was a home equity line of credit or just a standard refi, that would all show. That's running title. That's just looking at the general chain and checking out what's going on with the property beforehand.
It's the property history.
Yeah.
Okay, property profile and property history is what running title means. Okay, let's talk about prelim, because this is super important. This happens when you open escrow. So we talked about escrow in the last episode. Once you open escrow, you get a prelim report. Let's talk about prelim.
So the prelim report is different than the property profile in that it takes a couple days to produce, and this is where our search and examining team goes through all of the public records and they just examine everything on the property. So that would be verifying that the seller is in fact the legal owner, verifying that it's vested properly, verifying any easements, so any right to the property. If there's a shared driveway, that would mean that you would have an easement for right of ingress and egress right over the driveway, or maybe you have a fence on their property line.
Easements with the city.
Easements with the city as well, so like public utility easements and sewer lines and things like that. Those are all city easements.
Property line. It draws it out, right?
It will give you an aerial view of the property, like a plat map is what it's called, and it will outline the easements for you. So it would be considered, the plotted easements. The easements get plotted, and you can see it very clearly on a map. So
it's literally everything you need to know.
Everything you need to know.
So before we go any further, let's talk about what a lien is, and let's talk about what a deed, grant deed is. Let's talk about those very detailed explanations about those so that our viewers really understand it. First-time home buyers don't know what this is.
For sure. Okay, so a lien can be a number of things. A lien, there can be different types of liens. If you did construction work on your property but you didn't pay the contractor, there would be a construction lien on the property. Anyone can file a lien. If you didn't pay your property taxes, then you would get a tax lien on your property. If you, basically anytime you don't make a payment on something, whoever isn't being paid will put a lien on your property. So that is something that would be taken care of at the close of escrow. Or prior to the close of escrow, we would make sure that everything's been paid off, title is clear, there's no, you're not going to inherit any debt. That's the whole purpose of clear title.
So a lien is any money that is owed that has to do with the property.
Or the seller,
or the seller. So if the seller owes money to somebody, but it has to do with the house, right? if they have like construction on the house or
construction on the house, yeah, those will get recorded on the property chain, but if he didn't pay his tax liens, that follows him.
But it has to do with the house, the property tax.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So anything that like you owe that has to do with the house would go under title as a lien.
Yeah.
That's what a lien is. It's money that the owner owes.
Right.
And as a title insurance company, you would come in during escrow and close all those, right? You would close
so we would
all
make
those.
sure we would basically track down who hasn't been paid and what the deal is, and make sure that we get everything satisfied prior to closing. So we would make sure that we have documentation from whoever filed it saying that this lien has been paid in full, it is satisfied. We record that document showing that it's a satisfaction, and
lien
basically
is
that lien gets removed, it gets wiped out. I mean, the history is still there, but it's no longer in effect on the prelim. It doesn't affect us in closing. It won't affect you coming into the property. So that's kind of the whole purpose of.
So it's really clearing the seller so that the new buyer, who's going to be the new owner, doesn't inherit any debt.
Any debt, yeah.
Which is what you said, which is perfect, and I love that. Yeah. Let's talk about deeds.
Okay, so the grant deed is something that gets recorded when you buy the property, stating that you're the owner, your sole and separate property, or however you decide to vest it. And then what gets recorded concurrently with the grant deed is a deed of trust, which is just your loan information. Because unless you're buying it cash, you're going to take out a loan as well, and that would be the deed of trust that gets recorded. So it's another thing you're going to be signing with your escrow officer.
Right.
That's what gets recorded. So you'll always have a grant deed, no matter what.
Okay.
Then the deed of trust gets recorded with that, just showing that you took a loan out with it, so you didn't pay cash, basically. That's all it says.
Okay, really. Cool. That was really good. I think that was really informative, and I think those are definitely things that first-time home buyers wouldn't know.
Right.
And it's cool that they can get this education like beforehand. So that's really great. So who picks the title company that will be taking care of the buyer?
So the title company is traditionally picked by the listing agent, whoever's representing the seller. And typically that's just whoever they have a relationship with, whoever they've been working with before, who they have a good rapport with, that knows their stuff.
Yeah.
So and the seller usually pays for it as well, unless it's somehow negotiated.
Right. So that's the next question.
Sorry.
No. So who pays for the title
policy?
Yeah.
So kind of a two-part question. The seller pays for the title policy, but when you buy it, you're more often than not you're going to have a loan as well. So you would get what's called a lender's policy that you pay for as the buyer. So, but that's separate. It's included in your closing costs, but it's separate from the owner's policy. Go into that.
So do you have to renew your title insurance, or it's a one-time fee?
No, it's a one-time fee, and you pay it at the close of escrow. It doesn't get renewed annually. There's no monthly fee or anything like that, and you have title insurance until you sell the property again. So if you keep it forever and your kids keep it forever, they're all going to have the same title insurance that you had when you paid for it.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
And how much is title insurance?
It's just a percentage of the sale amount. So I think it's like 0.5% or something like that. I don't know the exact math, but it's just a percentage of whatever the sales price is.
Okay, great. So it's not too much. It's not too high.
No, it's a fraction of what you're paying for the home.
Yeah, true. Who does title insurance protect?
So title insurance protects you, the buyer. It also helps the seller because they clear all their debt before they sell it, but it's really more for you. 9 times out of 10, every person who buys a home gets title insurance, and it basically it protects you from inheriting any debt, any issues, anything that was recorded in the past that might be an issue in the future, you're protected from. So anything that was hidden that we may have not seen on the prelim report, like if Jane Smith comes out of the woodwork and says her great-grandfather owned the property in 1852 and title wasn't done properly and whatever the case is, that's something that you would be protected from with your title policy, because we did in fact check the chain of title and we made sure that whoever you bought it from was the sole and only owner to the property. There wasn't a 2% interest to the backyard lot, So we just make sure that there's no random situations like that. It protects you, the buyer, just from any random occurrences like that in your future from past events. So,
and once you get your prelim, so it tells you literally everything there's to know about the property. If there's any questions that you have on the prelim, like if there's an easement that you're like, wait, where is this? Why is it there? By the way, almost every house has like some
type of public utility or sewer easement.
It's some type of easement, so nothing to be too worried about if you do see that on your prelim. But if you ever have a question about that, which I've had a couple times with first-time home buyers who are like nervous about it. Yeah, like what is an easement? Like what? Yeah. What is so if you ever have any questions, please do ask your realtor, and your realtor would then go ahead and contact your title company. And this also takes me into the next question, which would be, who does title really work for, and who are they non-biased, or are they working for the seller? Are they working for the buyer?
So we're kind of working for both of you guys. I mean, we work with the seller to clear any liens and anything that was ever wrong with the property basically before the close of escrow to give you a clean title report. So it's kind of symbiotic, right? We work for both of you. We're a neutral third party. We're just trying to make sure that the transaction happens clear and clean and no fraud, nothing like that.
Yeah. So you're a neutral third party, just like escrow.
Yes.
So if a buyer was to ask you a question, there's no reason that title would
not at all.
come back with like a weird answer. Like it's going to be very straightforward.
For both parties.
They're protecting you. They really are.
Yeah,
so,
it's more for you, if anything.
Yeah.
So we definitely would advise you, and even if you had any questions and you weren't sure who to ask or your realtor wasn't sure who to ask, you can always call. Any title company would tell you, like, yeah, that's a red flag, or no, that's nothing to worry about, that's boilerplate, or whatever the case is. So,
yeah. Okay, really good
standard,
to know. I think this is great to know, especially for first-time home buyers.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I mean, I didn't know any of this until I started working here, so this is all, like...
That's what I say about real estate. Like, my friends ask me all these, like, general questions. I'm like, how do they not know? And then I sit there, I'm like, well, I wouldn't know either if I wasn't a realtor. There's no way I would know.
I had literally no idea any of this, anything. I didn't even know what title was until, like, a year after I started working here. It took me a while to actually be like, wait, what is title? Yeah, I just figured out it's just the ownership of property. So
okay, yeah, so it is pretty simple and straightforward. What are some problems that can come up with title, and what are clouds? Because we hear this term a lot in real estate.
Clouds on title or red flags. They kind of go hand in hand. So that can be a couple of things. If you're referencing prior to closing clouds on title or any red flags, that would be on your prelim report. Anything to look out for prior to closing, which could be, like we stated earlier, any type of liens or encumbrances or easements or anything in that general area. If it's after closing and there's clouds on title, something that you would need to file a claim for, then that could be something like to do with fraud or an unknown error or incompetence of the grantor or the mortgagor, or anything to do with fraud. Did I say fraud? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Or forgery as well. Like if someone signed off on the grant deed who wasn't in fact the actual owner because they had a shady notary or something like that. So it could be any of those things after the fact as well.
So what does title do during an escrow transaction?
Or just a general transaction. So we're usually involved in the process prior to escrow actually opening. Usually the agent will call us when they have the listing and they'll want us to run title real quick and make sure there's no red flags, nothing that we need to take care of prior. Once escrow is actually open though, that's when if we haven't already produced the prelim report, that's when our search and examining team will go through all of the public records and make sure that the seller is verified, that it is in fact the real owner. Any easements, we'll write those down on the prelim as well. All the red flags, everything goes on there. That's kind of what we do. Our main role is producing the prelim report, but then also just verifying that both parties are legit, basically.
Yeah. And at the end, in simpler terms. Yeah, but at the end of escrow, you guys play a huge role. So explain that.
Yeah, so at the end of escrow, escrow draws up the grant deed with you guys, and then they send it to us. We verify that everything's good to go. The legal description is correct, so it is in fact your property. From each boundary line, we have that all right. We're making sure that you're not accidentally giving an extra 2 feet or you're not given the extra 2 feet. So we verify that everything looks correct on the grant deed, and then when we show that the funds have come in, that's when we send the document down to record, and then that gets recorded with the county. That's shown on the public record chain of title that you are now in fact the owner, and then we just let escrow know, like, hey, we're confirmed, county's got the deed, here's your new document number, and we're good to go. That's when the file is closed. Everybody, if they were to pull up title or Google it, they show that you're the owner on title and how much you paid for it and all that stuff.
And that'll be it.
And then you move in.
Which is the best part. Okay, so thank you so much for all this information. I think this was amazing, and I think I've learned some things that I didn't know. As we said, there's so much to real estate.
To title and real estate, yeah.
There's so much to real estate. Like you're just learning every day. So this is amazing. This is so good for the first-time home buyers that don't know anything about title. And I just want to end it off with asking you what your advice would be for any first-time home buyers.
For a first-time home buyer. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is just wire fraud. Just definitely look out for that. Obviously, your escrow will take care of that with you, but just really be aware of that because that's a real thing.
Yeah, we did talk about it in the last episode. But definitely let's talk about that again because I think it's really important for our viewers.
No, well, I mean, if you already are aware of what it is, then I just really be aware when you're buying a property that, wire fraud is definitely a real thing. Don't take any random escrow instructions.
So that's a great advice.
Very prevalent. Yeah. That's definitely our most like claim
Yeah,
wire fraud.
you can never be too cautious with wire fraud. Like no one will ever be too annoyed with your 10 phone calls.
No.
Like it's so important and it's so much money, so you don't want to be
it's like your biggest investment you'll ever buy. So yes, definitely call.
Yeah.
Definitely be worried and really make sure that your asset is handled.
Right. Okay, well, I think that answers all of our questions. And yeah, thank you so much. I think this was really great.
Yeah, no, this is
and
great.
I'm so happy you're here.
I'm so happy to be here. This is awesome. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah,
it means a lot. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you guys for watching. Tune in next week again. Follow me on Instagram at Millennial Realtor LA. And what's your Instagram handle?
Mary.ChicagoTitle.
Yes. So follow her and me on Instagram, and we will see you next week. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Have a good one.